Blessings, everybody. This is Dale. Thank you so much for joining with me today on the Word Podcast. We're pressing on the Psalms, and we're up to the 25th Psalm. And this is a great psalm, as they all are, right? It feels sort of bad saying that, but there are some that are more impactful. Some definitely that we are more familiar with, that we understand better. But this one right here, basically, the psalmist, which is David, because that's the title on it, a Psalm of David, says, "Hey, Lord, teach me. Teach me, God, how to do this thing." And actually, the title in English, it says a Psalm of David. And the word a psalm isn't really right there. It just says of David. In other words, David is the one who wrote this thing. So I think we're going to look at the first 7 verses of it today. Just listen to what he says. First verse, Psalm 25. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. And so David's going to be declaring these various things that he's doing. And the Hebrew word there for soul is a very common Hebrew word, nefesh. And depending upon the context, it can mean the mind, a living being, a creature, life, soul, okay, an appetite, passion, emotion. It can mean a lot of things, but basically a living being. And in this particular psalm, it's translated as soul. And yeah, you would do well to remember what the scripture says, that we are spirit, soul, and body. And oh yeah, there's a big debate about that, as to whether we're tripartite, 3 parts, or just 2 parts. In other words, are spirit and soul synonymous? Are they the same? I don't think they're the same. And I've gone through that several times in the past. We won't dwell on it today. But David is saying this: I lift up my soul, the seat of my emotions. I lift this up to you, God. Verse 2, oh my God, in you I trust. And so he just declares it from the beginning. Oh, then my God, that Lord, you are my God. Sometimes we sort of slip over those little phrases right there. Okay. He declares that you are my God. Because of that, in you I will trust. And it's just a declarative statement. And you know what, folks? There's times when we need to do that. We need to remind ourselves, God is God, and he is our God if we believe. And you know what? We need to trust and trust in him. So he says, oh my God, in you I trust. But then he has a request in the same phrase. Do not let me be ashamed. Do not let my enemies exult over me. So we see that David has enemies. Boy, have we not seen that in these Psalms. He has enemies, and he's saying, God, I'm asking you that you would not let me be ashamed. Don't let my enemies exult, rejoice over me in any way. Then in verse 3 he says, indeed, none of those who wait for you will be ashamed. Those who deal treacherously without cause will be ashamed. So what does that word ashamed mean? Well, it means to be put to shame. The Hebrew word is spelled B-U-S-H, like bush. Feel sure it's not pronounced that way. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. But it means to be put ashamed, okay? To be disconcerted, to be disappointed. And he's saying the people who wait upon the Lord, the ones who wait for you, Lord, will not be ashamed. None will be. But those who deal treacherously without cause will be ashamed. Well, that's an interesting little turn of the phrase, isn't it? You would expect it to say, those who deal treacherously will be ashamed. But he says, without cause. Those who deal treacherously without cause, who act deceitfully, that are faithless. Those that do that without cause will be ashamed. So it sort of begs the question, is there ever a time to where you can deal treacherously with cause? And hear me carefully. I'm going to say yes. Okay? And the reason is this. The Lord knows our heart. And that deal treacherously, one of the translations is to deceive. We usually associate that with evil intent. And that's good because it often is with evil intent that people deceive, etc. But there are times when deception plays in for a good thing. For instance, David acted deceptively when he feigned insanity before the king of Gath. Remember that? He was king of Gath, the Philistine king. David acted crazy. He did several things in his life to where he was trying to put people off a particular kind of track. And so if you consider that to be dealing treacherously, there is cause there. So if somebody is trying to kill you and they want information from you and you won't give them the information that might harm somebody else, et cetera, et cetera. Even, this is a biggie today, even if people say, well, the law requires you to do this. Not necessarily. That's the law of man. So he says, those who deal treacherously without cause will be ashamed. Then verse 4, make me know your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. And this is where he starts saying, God, I lift my soul to you. You're my God. I trust in you. I don't want to be ashamed. I know you're not going to make me ashamed. Your enemies, my enemies, will not do this. So, Lord, I need to know this. I need to know your ways. Teach me your paths. Is that something you've ever prayed? Is that something you've ever requested? Lord, I want to know your ways. I want to know your paths. I want to know how you do things, God. Isn't that a great thing? So he says, God, teach me your paths. Then verse 5, lead me in your truth and teach me. So make me know your ways, teach me your paths, lead me in truth and teach me. So your ways are the ways that you are, God, the ways you go, the ways you move, the way you think, the way you are. Teach me that, God. These are your paths. I want to know your paths. And then I want to know your truth, Lord. Teach me. For you are the God of my salvation, for I wait all the day. So is that what we do? Again, do we wait upon the Lord all the day? Or do we wait on something else or someone else? It's a great question, right? In whom do we trust? But he says, you're the God of my salvation. I'm going to wait all the day for you. Verse 6, remember, O Lord, your compassion and your loving kindness, for they have been from of old. Isn't that a great little phrase? From of old, alum, which means that they have been from antiquity, of long stretch of time. It literally means this, everlasting, perpetual, that your compassion, your loving kindness has been everlasting. So, Lord, remember your compassion in relationships to me. Then verse 7, last verse for the day. Do not remember the sins of my youth or my transgressions. According to your loving kindness, remember me for your goodness' sake, O Lord. So notice why he's asking all these things. He's asking all these things for your goodness' sake, O Lord, for the sake of the Lord, to bring praise and glory to him. And he says, do this according to your loving kindness. Remember me. And he says this repeatedly. I didn't count how many times, but 2 or 3 times. He says, remember, Lord, remember these things. But he says one thing, do not remember the sins of my youth. Boy, can we not all say this? And then also this, or my transgressions. So do not remember the sins of my youth, and do not remember my transgressions. Is there a difference between the two? Well, the sins of my youth are the sins that we did when we were younger and we didn't know any better. We were stupid, But then also, do not remember my transgressions. There's transgressions that we commit now simply because we want to. And he's saying, Lord, forgive me for these things. Do not remember these things. Do not hold these things against me. So Psalm 25, first third of it or so right here, a great psalm of King David. We'll look at the balance of it in the next couple episodes. I'll see y'all then. Goodbye.